just starting the record button. So welcome everyone to Snow Shoveling Safely. Matt Arbeiter is taking the lead today. So I'm going to let you take over, Matt, and I'll watch for any questions in the chat box.
All right. Also want to introduce Andrea Myers. And Andrea works as a corporate physical therapist and is also a fitness specialist. And so I always like Andrea making sure as a physical therapist that I'm doling out the right, correct information. She's the fact checker, because that seems to be in our political system right now, a fact checker. And Andrea will give me input and keep me in line, or try to do that. But we were talking about snow shoveling, and on this beautiful day today outside, it's hard to think that we're going to get snow. I do like snow because I like to ski and I like the changes of the seasons. But this is going to look a little weird now, but I do have a prop today. I'm going to put on my hat since we're talking about shoveling snow. And I did try to match my outfit. So anyhow, with that, Andrea, we were talking about the snow and the shoveling, and Andrea just bought a new house and has a long driveway. So typically you like shoveling.
Yeah, I definitely prefer shoveling. Like you, I like the exercise. I like being outside when it's peaceful and the snow is coming down. But some of those super heavy snows, and if it's just me at home, I am grateful to have a snow blower backup. Do want to point out that the snow blower, and I know you're going to talk about this, but the snow blower isn't without its risks as well.
Right.
But I'm happy to do a little bit of both.
Right. Well, everybody, we try to keep these Q&A sessions, I don't want to say informal in a bad way, but trying to make sure everybody has access to us and make sure that they get their questions answered. So we have some canned bullet points, I think, that we want to talk about, but this time is really for you, and you have access to two world-class physical therapists right now. So if you have questions about shoveling and injuries, please, I'd love to see your face. Most people are pretty shy, but turn your camera, or at least put it in the chat box. I have the chat box open, but Michelle's managing that for us as well. Well, looking, at injuries, I think back to last year and the years past about injuries that I see in clinic. And, a lot of low backs and remarkably knees. And I think that's something we think about is the actual act of shoveling, but it's also important to remember about slipping on ice and snow. So with that, I think that one thing that you should do before you start shoveling is make sure you have good solid traction on boots. I used to laugh at people that use the yak tracks. So they're yak tracks, if those that don't know, are little rubberized studs and springs that you can put on the bottom of your shoe to get some traction. Because I have a little driveway that has a little angle to it. So when I'm shoveling or snow blowing, the few times that I do that, I have slipped, and I haven't hurt myself, but I start putting those yak tracks on my boots, and they make a tremendous difference. And I also use them when I run in the winter as well. Andrea, you have any comments on the yak tracks? You must have some yak tracks when you run.
I don't. I'm just a little extra careful when I run. My husband has used things like that and has shoes that have little knobbies, and he's actually drilled machine screws into the bottom of a pair of running shoes to make his own kind of studs. But I don't. I've been lucky, I guess, and I still bounce. 10 more years I'll be as old as you are, or I guess 6 more years I'll be as old as you are. No, need the actress.
What? All right. So, but that's an important part too, guys, because as we age, I want to tell you that I tell people after 35 years old, things don't bounce back quite as quick as they used to. So these injuries take a little bit longer to heal from. So we want to talk about injury prevention here, not about the injuries themselves. So the most important thing to avoid an injury, number one, we talked about the importance of traction when you're shoveling. Number two, a proper warm up. And a lot of people, I think, misconstrue warm up that they're going to stretch. Really what we're looking for and what we think the evidence shows is that a dynamic warm up, which is different than stretching, should be done. There's been some good research, at least with, I know the Premier Soccer Leagues, that they have what they call a FIFA 11, where they do, there's a series of 11 drills that they do. And there's solid evidence that when you do this before activity, this FIFA 11 dynamic warm up, this is a series of drills, that they tremendously diminish the rate of injuries. It doesn't certainly abolish them, but it makes you a little bit more resilient. And as we age, that becomes more and more important. Those of us who have 14 and 15-year-old kids at home, it still is like pulling teeth to get them out there. At my house growing up, I did the shoveling. Getting my daughters out, it's usually I'm out there and they get nervous that I might come in and yell at them. So then they get out and they scramble up, but they're not the first ones outside. But first and foremost, if you got the 12-year-old kid in your neighborhood that wants to make an extra buck, or you have kids that to do it, make them shovel. But this dynamic, I'm deviating from this dynamic warm-up, but typically what I tell people for a warm-up would be, I guess, for your lower extremities, certain things you can do, just like maybe a little, knee raises, just to get you want to get your core temperature. You want to get the muscles primed for activity, get the blood flowing. It also, stimulates our nervous system. We talk about neuromuscular control, so that your balance and it primes the joint surfaces as well. Those of you who've been through my ergonomics courses know that that's how joints receive nutrition, is through movement. So you're getting nutrition to those tissues that will be working, but also stimulating and kind of turbocharging that nervous system so that your muscles can control your joints a little bit better. So certain things that might work are like grabbing a knee to a chest, from a standing position, marching in place, maybe for your upper extremities, just, even simply jumping jacks to get your heart rate up, or, just to get your shoulders and arms ready, doing some cross body work would work. Andrea, any other suggestions for any kind of dynamic warm up, or do you have any suggestions for stretching or anything?
No, those are all great. You could just go out in the yard and walk through the 2 feet of snow to get in those high knees and a little bit of cardio work before you start shoveling too. Right.
Well, and a few comments came up on the side that people say it's great exercise. I guess one other concern, and this is going to deviate away from our area of expertise, are people who maybe have a heart history. I'm happy to chat about it a little bit if people have questions, but really there is a high incidence of heart attacks when people are shoveling, especially that heavier snow. So people who are at risk should maybe take consideration that we're not worried about slips or injuring their back or neck, but injuring their heart, which is never good. That becomes a life and death situation. I did read an article one time where an emergency room physician suggested nobody over the age of 55 should be shoveling snow. I don't know if he had a hand in maybe some spiffs from these snow removal companies. I don't know, but I hope to be shoveling still when I'm 55 years old. But so typical injuries, Andrea, what do you see in clinic? Snow shoveling injuries or activity injuries like snow shoveling?
It's been backs like you. Myself, I actually injured my shoulder because I was throwing too much, and I was helping a neighbor shovel and had to throw over a wall. So backs, shoulder.
Right, you bring up a good point. So let's talk a little bit about backs. And I see the list of people that are here. Most people between the ages of 25 and 55. And what we think with backs are disc-related injuries, and there's always usually the disc is involved with this. It's not can't be the source it's involved. So I want to show a little bit about back mechanics here, and I'm going to bring up a quick slide here from a presentation. So if you look at this slide here, this is a spinal segment, and this is a typical vertebrae. So a spinal segment is one vertebrae stacked up on one another with this dynamic disc in between. Can you guys see my cursor here as well? You see my cursor going around there or not, Andrea?
Matt, I'm not seeing your screen right now.
Oh, you're not? Okay. Sorry, guys. Let me go back here. Let me hit this button again. Michelle and I even practiced this. Let me get back to the presentation here. Here I am. I'm going to share. And let me get into my, I'm going to take this down here into the area. Okay. So what we're looking at, can you see my cursor? And I don't have a cursor now. But anyhow, so this is the spinal segment. To the facing left is the front of your body. Facing to your right on the screen is your backside. Okay. Can you still see me too, Michelle?
No.
Or is it just the screen? Okay. So in short, the disc acts as a ligament between your two vertebrae, and the disc itself has a fibrocartilage outer covering we call the annulus. The inside is called the nucleus, and I'm told it's the consistency of chewing gum. So it's a little bit viscous and helps our body move. But when we bend forward, that viscous material you can see in the bottom area migrates back, okay? And when we back bend, kind of like a gymnast, that disc material migrates forward. And we're simplifying a very difficult biomechanical process. But for our intents and purposes today, I think it holds some water. So know that that's the reason that we want you to stand with good posture, so this disc stays at equilibrium in between the vertebrae and doesn't bulge back or bulge forward. And if you have an injury, these types of things, never really forward, but especially towards the back, then that's when they become problematic. So there are also disc pressures, and this study was done a long time ago. It was a landmark study, and so we still use it. But what this gentleman did is he took needle electrodes and put it in people's backs to measure disc pressures. And if you see the 150 on the left side, and then close to the shaded area, that 100, what they said is 100% of your body weight going through your discs when you stand with good posture. When you bend forward, and that's just bending forward at 45 degrees, so look just to the right on that bar graph, the 150, it increases the pressure on your discs by 50%. If you put a small weight in your hand and bend forward, that more than doubles the disc pressure. So you can see that that's why we want to keep our back in a neutral position while we're lifting and while we're snow shoveling. So any questions about that? I know that you can't see my cursor, so it's hard for me to share that a little bit better. Let me get back online here. Make sure I hit the right thing. All right, am I back there? Did that make sense? If anybody has questions about that. So in short, I even have a disc spinal segment right here, okay? And this is the back side and this is the front side. When we bend forward this way, the disc material migrates back, and you want to keep it all housed right together like this. So that's why they say lift with your knees, not with your back. And Andrea talked about when I'm shoveling and I turn and I have to toss it over my shoulder, then you're adding a twist, which puts a totally different dynamic and torque on the disc that's not meant to happen. So we need to keep our spine in a neutral position to avoid these back injuries. So I do have an example here with a shovel. Can you see me here?
Yep, that's good.
Okay. All right, guys. So first and foremost, if you can push the snow, I think that's going to be a lot easier to push the snow rather than have to lift it. But we all know in Minnesota, we start getting a little bank, right? So you're going to have to lift at some point. Pushing it around only is going to get you so far, okay? But when you lift it, we definitely always want a wide base of support in through your legs, and sometimes offset so you're balanced on that slippery surface as well. And what I'm not doing is bending forward at my waist like this, okay? Especially repeatedly lifting and shoveling this way. I'm gonna go through my knees to do that, okay? We try to keep the weight close to us as well, so we're not working our shoulders and taking our body out of a mechanical advantage. Remember, when we're in a neutral position, our muscles are able to control the joints a lot better, okay? The last thing we want to do is be tossing stuff like this, where we're getting that coming from that flexed position where we know that disc is migrating back, and then I'm going to torque it back this way as I lift this area up. That's probably not what we want to do. So trying to keep your back in a neutral position is going to help prevent injuries to that low back. Andrea, anything to add with that?
You know, you talk about pushing versus lifting. That's something that we've changed since we got us snowblowers. We'll tend to push, and then as the driveway starts shrinking, then we'll pull out the snowblower and get the edges and the bank a little bit. So if you have the opportunity to do both, I think that's a nice way to avoid the lift and still be able to push and get a little bit of exercise and still be out there enjoying the shoveling.
Right. And in fact, and I don't know, we maybe started this conversation before. I do like shoveling because I think you get that satisfaction of a job well done, and you can see your progress. And I was telling how I work during the day sometimes when I'm not in clinic. I feel like I'm on my computer all day and you can't really see the work I did. I thought I worked all day, but I can't see my progress. With shoveling, you get that instant gratification, and I do like that, or snowblowing for that matter. So any questions about shoveling or back injuries at all? Any questions coming in, Michelle? People not sick of me talking yet?
Matt, we're watching the chat box, but no questions yet. So
Okay.
I'm going to take the lead with that and ask you, when I walk through Target or I'm shopping for a shovel, is there anything I should look for as far as the handle size or the shovel size?
Well, they do have these ergonomic shovels that have that bend in them, right? And personally, I think it's tough, especially when you do have to lift that shovel over, the snow over the snow bank that happens, in February, March, when we have more buildup of the snow. I think that provides a little bit of a difficult situation. What that does is minimizes our need to bend forward. I think that most of the ergonomics and most of the back injuries are going to happen by what's happening in your brain and controlling your body, and not by the equipment. One thing I would say though is I do think a plastic shovel, as a general rule, is better than metal. Some of those metal ones get pretty heavy, and then the snow sticks to them. Okay, if you do have a metal shovel, just a tip. My dad told me this, to spray Pam on it, and it actually works for a little bit of while, that the snow will come off a little easier. I forget the brand of the shovel that I use. It has a yellow handle and the white on the front is plastic. And the hardware store by me calls it the world's best snow shovel. And I have to say, it is a great snow shovel. It's very, very durable. It's sharp, so you can scrape things up, and it's really, really light. So in short, I think the best shovel is one that's going to be light, that's going to be plastic. But the ergonomic ones, I think when you're pushing snow around, that can help aid in keeping you in a neutral position. However, I think down the road, when you have to really lift the snow over the snowbank, I think that adds a different component that is difficult to deal with. Andrea, anything to add with those? And maybe you disagree with me.
Well, I know when we moved there, we try to get the widest snow shovel as possible. Then you realize very quickly it's when you do have to lift. So we have multiple shovels based on the snow, and whether we're pushing, use a little wider one, and whether we're lifting, definitely use a smaller one. So you're not tempted to try to lift this full shovel of snow.
Right. So I think, does that answer the question, Michelle, that you were thinking?
Yeah, I think it does. There's just so many options out there. Sometimes it's hard to pick.
Right. Well, something to think about as well is another way, as I'm kind of thinking through preventing injuries, is, the importance of just a certain baseline of fitness. And I tell all my patients that the patients that get better quicker are not only the ones that do their homework and do their exercises, but also the patients that already active and leading an active lifestyle. So I know that there's been studies in the past. I think they study firefighters and military, and we can talk about that those people are, mostly younger, et cetera. But a certain baseline of fitness does help to prevent injuries. So General Mills people have options, even during COVID, with TC Fit, with our company, that to access some fitness classes online. It's all free. And Michelle can maybe link that to this when we post it up on our YouTube channel. But also, we can also, just do some personal training, and we offer those services as well. So I don't want to make a shameless plug, but we do have some talented people here that, if you do feel like you want to increase your fitness level, prevent injuries on the driveway this winter, there are those options available. So any other comments on that, Andrea, just about fitness level and how quickly people heal?
Yeah, I think anytime you do a new activity that you haven't done for a while, you're going to have soreness and potentially pain, depending on how long you're out there shoveling. So certainly your baseline level of fitness. And I've been doing a few of the TC Fit videos myself, and the variety of exercise. I mean, just as straight running or straight cardio just isn't enough. You need that variety of movement and that strength work if you really want to kind of prepare for an ordinary activity without getting too sore.
All right, I'm gonna throw out a fact checker right here. Is the stat that after 35, you lose 3% of your muscle mass if you don't do anything to prevent it? Is that right? Is that per year or per decade? I forget what it is.
It starts younger than that.
Oh, does it? Well, in short, in short, I think oftentimes people want the cardio, but they don't do the resistance training. So resistance training is extremely important, not only for weight management, but also to keep that solid baseline of fitness and for injury prevention. Michelle, it looked like you wanted to say something there.
Yeah, I was just going to point out, the using correct mechanics and body mechanics. It's one thing to say lift with your legs and don't twist. Sometimes it's nice to have a professional take a look at that versus just trying to feel it yourself. We do offer free success sessions where we could video chat with you one-on-one and double check form, or if you're participating in those TC Fit live stream classes, just type it in the chat box. You want to chat with the instructor for 2 minutes after, and or turn on your video, and we're happy to help monitor form via camera.
Right. So I know that we have to wind down and that we're getting to that time. So feel free to reach out to me individually and Andrea individually if you have further questions, if you're being shy. But a couple other things to think about when you're outside is, preventing frostbite. And that is, make sure you're dressed properly. If it is really cold out, keep those that exposed skin covered, and dress in layers, because you will warm up. It's amazing when I shovel, I usually put a sweatshirt on at the end, and oftentimes I end up in a pair of gloves and a sweatshirt and a hat, even when it's well below zero as I'm shoveling. So make sure you're being mindful of protecting yourself from the elements. But also, one other thing is to stay hydrated. Remember, so you're still, although you don't feel yourself sweating necessarily all the time, when you're out in the cold, you do have to maintain, your hydration. So that becomes important as well. So I did something come through here. I see a little red dot. I don't know if anybody has a question, or that's you, Michelle, adding. That's Michelle adding. Oh, so here's Jay has a suggestion here. Let me read this, and I know we're nearing our end time. That the snowplow snow pusher shovel comes in a variety of sizes, 24, 30, 36, and 48. He's get to that Ace Northern Tool Amazon. They really do last. I wonder if that's the same one I'm thinking. He said best for pushing, but not so for lifting. I'll try to get the one I was thinking about as well that I really, really like. So, but thanks, Jay, for that comment. So with that, if there's not any other questions, we're going to sign off. We appreciate all your participation. We'll probably continue the Q&A sessions in January. We have nothing set up yet, but look to what the TC Fit's offering in the new year. We'd love to see your faces participating. Andrea, any final thoughts at all?
Totally off topic, but watch vibration with the snowblower too.
Oh yeah,
Sorry,
snowblower, we didn't talk about that, but same thing applies. You don't be pushing your snowblower like this. Keep that snowblower close to you. Let the snowblower do the work. You shouldn't do the work. So yeah, the vibration on the snowblower, see more elbow problems, a little tennis elbow when they snowblowing. But I'm not playing tennis, doctor, right? I have snowblowing. So the gripping and the vibration are something to consider. So with that, you guys, thank you so much for your time and attention. Reach out with any questions after you have time to digest this. And I think we're going to post this up if you need to see it again. But wonderful to have this participation, and happy holidays to everybody.
Thank you, Matt.
All right. Bye, everybody.